Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to take an existing OmniScript element and make it completely your own, like adding custom functionality, custom UI, and integrating it with OmniScript data model. In OmniStudio, every standard OmniScript element, like a text field, messaging element, or a radio button, is a Lightning web component with its own logic and template. By extending this, we can keep its base functionality while adding our own functionality into it. For example, if you take a look at this messaging element, it already handles the displaying messages, icons, and syncing with OmniScript JSON data. We don't want to rewrite that. We just want to enhance it. So here you can see I have a messaging element added into my OmniScript, and the true and false scenarios like the success and failure scenario, I have just used a set value and set a value for the variable called sample as 1, and in my messaging element I'm just evaluating if it's 1. So my success and failure scenario is based on that. So here you can see based on my value I have given it, it displays a success message which has its own custom styling applied to it already. Now this video is all about enhancing this out of the box functionality so we can make this component our own. Now before doing anything that we want to do, what we need is the base template of all the components that we want to work. For example, here we are working with the messaging element. So what we need to do first is to get the base template of this messaging element. For that, go to the link shown in the screen right now. It will take you to this page, and from here you can choose the reference for the OmniScript. If you want any other elements which belongs to the whole Vlocity platform, you can go click on this link, but I'm going to choose the OmniScript link, which will take me to this page here where you can see the latest releases. Here I'm going to download the latest version. I have already downloaded it, and it will give you a zip file which when opened will give you all the necessary components inside this folder. I have already opened this in my VS Code. Here you can see all the components that belongs to the OmniScript is shown here. Now from here, go to the component which you want to work with. In our case, it is the OmniScript messaging element. Now two things that you have to keep in mind is if you want to play with the UI of the element that you want to work with, like if you want to change the looks of the UI, the first thing that you have to do is go to your custom LWC that you have created. Here you can see I have created an LWC called extended messaging element which has a JavaScript file and an HTML file. This HTML file is nothing but a copy of the original components HTML file. So I have copy pasted this whole code from here and pasted it into my custom LWC HTML file, and I have made some changes. As you can see here, added a button and I'm displaying my custom message. So except this part, the rest of it is completely similar to what we have in the base template. One thing you have to keep in mind is that the namespace of the elements. For example, in the base template, if you look, the namespace of the element, for example, the icon here is C. You have to change that namespace into whatever namespace your org is in. For example, my org namespace is OmniStudio, so you have to change it to OmniStudio namespace. Now let's move into a JavaScript file. Here you have to keep a few things in your mind, which is basically importing the required components which you need to work with. So for example, here we are working with the OmniScript messaging element, so you have to import that from your particular namespace. And to get the name of which component to import, you can go to your base folder again and go ahead and open your readme file. Here you can see the element name that we have to work with or that you want to enhance is OmniScript messaging. So this is the element or component which you should import. If I take any other example, let's say we can open the OmniScript model component and open its readme file, and here it will tell you which component you should import, and this name should be given here. So that is the first thing that you have to import, and obviously you will have to import the OmniScript base mixin from your namespace and extend your base mixin with the particular component that you have imported. Now the next thing that you have to import is your particular HTML file that you just created and edited. Now import it as any variable here, and to render that UI changes that you have made in the HTML file, one thing that you have to do is to render that template. So this part is very important. If you have any UI changes or if you have any changes made to your HTML template, so this part is very important. Keep in mind that if you want to display any custom UI that you have to render the template that you have created on top of your base template. This will make sure your custom UI is visible there. Now other than this, there is nothing fancy about the code that we have here. I have some getters and setters function, and I have a toggle method which will toggle the rendered message as uppercase or lowercase. That is only logic that I have written here. Now one more thing that you have to do is go to your OmniScript, and I have already added another messaging element here. and if you make it visible, here you can see in the Lightning Web Component override place, I have given the name of my custom LWC. Now let's go ahead and preview this. At the top you can see the normal messaging component, and at the bottom you can see our custom success message. If you click on the button, it will update the message which is shown there. Now this is how you can make improvements on top of your base elements from your OmniScript or whatever elements which is available to you in your org. Now let's say you not only want a simple toggle button, but what if we also want these changes to reflect in the OmniScript JSON data? This is where the methods like OmniUpdate data JSON comes in. It allows you to update the current OmniScript data JSON which is in the OmniJSON data in memory. The effect is that the changes are made immediately and the other elements bound to the same key will instantly reflect the update. However, it does not trigger an OmniScript re-evaluation of rules or conditional logic. It is purely a local update. This is useful when you want to store dynamic values directly into your OmniScript data without going through server-side transformations. On the other hand, if you want your updates to trigger formulas, visibility rules, or recalculations, we can use the method called OmniApply call response. This merges a response object, for example, from a data raptor integration procedure or even an Apex remote class into the OmniScript data. The difference here is that it not only updates the OmniJSON data but also retriggers OmniScript post-response processing. So any formulas or dependent calculations or bound UI elements will automatically update. But here we are not going to do any of those. Instead, we are just toggling the button and displaying uppercase and lowercase values. Now, one more thing that I have to mention in this video is what if you want to use some of the available methods which are built into the base components. For example, there will be some handler methods which will be triggered when you interact with an existing component, like let's say a select component. For example, here you can see there is a custom select drop down and you want to use these values which is available in the handler method for each of the clicks that happens. For that, what you can do is you can go to your whatever element you want to work with. For example, I have selected the OmniScript select element. Here if you look, you can see there is an onChange function, and on the onChange function the handle change method will be called. So to get this method and work with this, what you can do is you can directly create your own handle change method in the JavaScript file which you are working with. For example, what you can do is you can create a handle change function here and write your logic here. This way you can also make use of the available methods from the base components. Now, one way to know which all available methods are there is to go back to your base file and go to the readme files. Under the method section, you can see all the available methods that are available for that component. So by extending existing OmniScript element, you're not just copying, you're creating your own version that fits your exact requirements. You can control the UI, add functionality, and even decide how and when the data is updated in the OmniScript. That is how you make a standard elements truly your own. That is all for this video. If you have any questions or doubts, please comment it down and we are more than happy to reply to it. Catch you in the next video. Thank you.